So on behalf of the 1.6 million members of this great union, I say hello to the activists and members of Council 28. Each day, all of you prove that every voice counts and public service matters. Do that every single day. Earlier this year, thousands of you made your voices count. In multiple actions across the state, you called for full funding of your contracts. You weren't silent. You made your voices heard. And after 3 special sessions, Governor Inslee, who supports public services, he supports workers' rights, he signed a budget that averted a government shutdown, and he funded those contracts because of your activism, because of your commitment, because of your dedication. You told the entire state that the jobs you perform every single day, those jobs matter. And public service matters in this state, doesn't it? It's important to keep telling that story, to keep telling our story. Everybody depends on your work. Every community is better off because of it. But that doesn't mean that everybody appreciates your work. You know, people often take you for granted. They don't see the risk that you make every single day. I want to tell you a quick story. You may have heard about it. But community corrections specialist Lisa Tavares, a member of Local 308, is one of those risk takers. Weeks ago, she was injured in the hunt for the suspect in a drive-by shooting. The suspect took a shot at the officers, injuring Lisa, your sister, our sister. A tense standoff ensued, but the man eventually surrendered without firing more shots. He's now behind bars where he should be. He's now behind bars. And Lisa credits the colleagues who are with her, but she deserves credit as well for bringing this violent criminal to justice and putting her life on the line every single day, as so many of our members do across this state and across this country. Serving the public, serving them well, committed, dedicated public service workers. You know, in performing your work with pride from Vancouver to Pullman and reminding the state of your value, you really are fighting. You're fighting for all working families. Our strength is making a difference here and elsewhere. Greg is aware of this. We've had some victories with all the fights and with all the battles that we're having across this country in the state of Washington. When we come together, we can win. In the state of Missouri, last week, the extremists were trying to make Missouri the 26th state to become right to work. The governor, a friend of ours, vetoed the legislation that was put before him. He vetoed that legislation, so the extremists tried to override that veto. But the mean green machine went into action with our partners and other labor unions and our community partners, our coalition partners. And guess what? The governor stood tall. That veto was not overridden. Missouri today is not a right-to-work state. That's AFSCME in action. Next door in Oregon, you might have heard this story. The sponsor of a right-to-work ballot measure is abandoning that proposal because she couldn't get the necessary support. That is AFSCME in action. No right to work in the state of Oregon. And get this, talking about victories. In the land of enchantment, New Mexico, there was a right-to-work bill that was introduced by extremists, supported by the governor, and our friends and allies and the entire union movement came together in that state. And that bill didn't even come out of committee. And New Mexico is not a right-to-work state. That, once again, is AFSCME in action. Now, those victories, these victories mean a lot, but they can't erase a central fact. All across this country, AFSCME members are in a constant fight for our lives. You name almost any state, look at these governors, look at these state legislatures who are attacking bargaining rights, attacking our pensions, attacking our health insurance, trying to weaken our union, attacking public services every single day. You know it, you feel it every single day here in the state of Washington. You know, there's an organization called the Freedom Foundation. Bad people. They're a menace. Putting up signs, attacking unions, attacking public service, attacking your ability to have a seat at the table. And they're spreading that poison now. They're not only doing it in the state of Washington, but they've now crossed the border. And they're in Oregon. And they're going to be spreading in state after state after state. We've got to accept the challenges that confront all of us. Whether it's an extremist governor, whether it's the Freedom Foundation, or whether it's a hostile state legislature. But now we've got another group that's in the act, the United States Supreme Court. So we aren't only battling these legislators and governors and extremist organizations, now we're fighting the United States Supreme Court. A case called Friedrichs versus California Teachers Association is now before the Supreme Court. This case will be considered either the end of this year or the beginning of next year. A decision will be rendered no sooner than April, no later than June of 2016. Now, our opposition wants to make it about union dues and how there should be freedom, where if you don't want to be a union member, you don't have to pay. That's not what this fight is all about. This case goes much, much deeper than that. The aim of Friedrichs is to weaken us to the point where we can't fight for working families, where we can't fight for our members or be a voice for everyday Americans. Make no mistake about it. With the Friedrichs case, the corporate CEOs want to eliminate our right to speak out, to have a seat at that table, for decent wages that can sustain families, or for a secure retirement for all of us. And now they've got the Supreme Court considering to do their dirty deeds. Well, I want to make it clear to all of you in this room, to all of Council 28, all of our affiliates across this country, no matter what the court decides, AFSCME is going to be standing tall. We're going to keep on fighting. We're going to continue to keep our voices heard. We will not be silent, sisters and brothers. We will not be silent. You know, in the absence of a strong union voice, the wealthiest people can rake in more and more money and power and keep the economy off balance. They can continue to manipulate the rules in their favor, stacking the deck against those who are working hard, playing by the rules, persevering every single day, just like you. So we've got to figure out a way to fight back. We've got to figure out a way to respond to this crisis. And that's exactly what your union has been doing. Starting off in January of 2014, we brought all of our leaders into Washington, D.C. Greg was a part of that meeting, not only of the executive board, but council directors and presidents who don't serve on our executive board, to come together, to talk about our union, to talk about these attacks, and to look inwardly, to look and talk about what we're doing right so we can continue that, but also being honest with one another, looking at what we're doing wrong so we can fix it, so we can move forward. As you can imagine, these are some pretty hard discussions, very honest discussions. Greg has heard me say this before, but I'll say it again. Sometimes in my travels, and all of you know that I travel all across the country, sometimes I feel like I'm driving a 1957 Chevy. Now let me tell you something. For those of you who were around then, 1957 Chevy was a great car. It was a great car, right? It was a great car in 1957. It may not be such a great car in 2015. Sisters and brothers, AFSCME has got to rebuild a new model, so we are prepared to fight back, to make our voices heard. That's what the purpose of these meetings have been. So out of those meetings, we came up with a program called 50,000 Stronger. Now, how many of you were at the convention in Chicago? We talked about the 50,000 Stronger campaign, where we had to get back to basics, start reaching out and talking to our members and non-members alike, asking them to support their union. It is their union. Asking them to be involved in signing up new members internally. We set a goal of signing up 50,000 new members starting in January of 2014, going into June at our convention. Every affiliate bought into this program. They understood the importance of doing this. And for those of you who are at the convention, you know that when we walked into that convention, we weren't 50,000 stronger, we were 92,000 stronger because of what we were doing across the country. But we didn't stop there. When we left Chicago, we continued. And we reported at the executive board last week that now AFSCME is 200,000 stronger based upon that one-on-one communication. Looking people dead in the eye, asking them to participate, asking them to be involved. So now we're calling the program, we've graduated. It's not 50,000 stronger anymore, it's AFSCME Strong, because that's who we are. That's what it's about. This is our new initiative. And let me just say this, sisters and brothers, Council 28, and I am so proud of all of you, your leaders, your activists, the members. You've jumped into this program. You have adopted this program, and you are moving forward by signing up members like you've never done before. You are training staff. You're training activists, volunteer member organizers, going out, throwing away those iPhones, getting rid of those iPads. You're knocking on doors. You're visiting work sites. You're talking to members one-on-one, asking them to be a part of this union. You're doing that every single day. And we set another goal based upon our success with 50,000 Stronger. We've set a goal to talk to 80% of our members across this country by our convention in Las Vegas in July of 2016. That's 1 million people. But we're committed to doing it because we've got to go back to basics here. 101 grassroots organizing, talking with people, listening to them, providing them an avenue to talk back to us, having them become a part of this great union. In this council, you've talked with and assessed the commitment of more than 3,000 members. Those members have shared their frustrations about not being recognized and not having the resources for their work. And based upon those communications, that kind of conversation, you're putting a program together. That's what we've got to do all across this country. You've surpassed your goal for training AFSCME strong coaches, and you're working toward achieving and surpassing your other goals for the program. Council 28 is engaged in this program like no other affiliate across the country. Give yourselves a round of applause for the work that you're doing. That's the first leg of AFSCME Strong. Reconnecting with our members, talking with non-members, asking them to be involved. The second leg is this, and I think I'm probably preaching to the choir when I say this, but we've got to grow our people program. Our program where we accept voluntary donations from members to help us battle the political fights, the legislative fights in the state of Washington and around this country. We've got to pay special attention to the people program. That's how we win those political and legislative battles. A big legislative victory for you was winning funding for your 2015-2017 contracts. That was a big victory. But the fight for additional resources to make up for years of underfunding continues. And you're going to have to be prepared once again to engage in that battle. As I said earlier, the Freedom Foundation keeps pursuing its aggressive anti-labor campaign. Now this year they failed to get any of their legislation passed. Good job. Good job. But guess what? They'll be back at it again next year. Make no mistake about it, we've got to be ready. Got to be prepared. And 2016 is a very important year for all of us. It's an important year for all of you in the state of Washington. You're going to be electing a governor, I believe, right? You're going to be electing friends in the Senate, in the state legislature, trying to get those extremists out of the way. The only way that we can do this is to have a war chest of dollars that we can spend, that we can help our friends and punish our enemies. That's what this is all about. Supporting working families, supporting public service. That's what those funds go to. We've also got something else. It's going to be very important happening next year, and all of you know that, and I know that you've been having a lot of discussions about it. That's a 2016 presidential election. Now let me just say this. Let me be very, very clear about this. Your union, AFSCME, has taken a deep dive into our members, into our leadership, conducting numerous polls, opening up the website so you can comment on what we should be doing and what our program should be. At every national conference the union has had this year, we've taken a poll of who we should support, what we should do. Should we do it now or should we do it later? Well, we had a conversation. I heard that, brother. We had a conversation last week at the executive board meeting. And we still believe that we must dig deeper into our membership, to poll more so we can figure out what we must do and when we must make a very, very important decision. And we're committed to doing that. So we didn't make an endorsement last week. We're going to continue to drill down and seek the advice and recommendations from our members. We had 3 candidates when we started this process. We started this process by sending out questionnaires to every single candidate, Democrat and Republican alike, asking them to fill out the questionnaires. Oh, I'm sorry, I misspoke. We didn't send a question out to one individual. That was Scott Walker. He could go to hell, okay? So we didn't send it to him, okay? The three folks, the three candidates that filled out those questionnaires appeared before our executive board. Those three candidates were Martin O'Malley, ex-governor of Maryland. He's a good guy. He was a good governor. You can give him a round of applause. He's a good guy. I want to test this here today. Then it was Hillary Clinton. She came and spoke before our board. And then it was Bernie Sanders came and spoke before our board. Is that some kind of message? That's some kind of message that I'm hearing. But then you know what we didn't? Maybe some of you saw it. And if you haven't, it's on our website. You should take a look at it. We went to Iowa. And we had 3 town hall meetings with the 3 candidates, with Hillary Clinton, Martin O'Malley, and Bernie Sanders, with all of our activists in Iowa. And we sent it across the country so you could watch it live. And if you didn't see it, you can go on our website to take a look at it. And I urge you to do so, because these town hall meetings were unbelievable. They were great. Those are the kinds of things that we are doing to make an intelligent decision. So we are together when we make that decision. I don't have to tell you how important this is. You look at the Supreme Court, 3, perhaps 4 Supreme Court justices will be replaced in the next round. Can you imagine if the wrong person gets in office? Well, I know one person that's not getting in office because we scored a victory about a week ago. Scott Walker. He is the guy. And I was there in Madison. Bill was there in Madison. We were a part of a movement, 100,000 protesters saying that we should not have our voices stolen from us. He compared those 100,000 protesters, labor union members, students, retirees, farmers, small businesses, the clergy. He compared them to ISIS, a terrorist organization. Well, guess what? Scott Walker decided he couldn't make it up that hill, and he got out of the running last week. And that is good news for everybody. So let me say this. You know, he was trying so desperately to get into the White House, and he dropped out last week. So the only way that he gets close to that White House is if he stands in line with everybody else and he takes the White House tour. He's not going to be getting in any other way. Now, I guess I should feel kind of bad. Really. I guess I should feel kind of bad because last week I happened to be at the White House. I had the privilege of being at the White House when the Pope was welcome there. And let me tell you, it was amazing. It really was. It was fulfilling to hear the Pope talk about forgiveness, talked about love, talked about support for working families, he talked about kindness, all that good stuff. But I guess I'm going to have to go to confession. Because it feels great to trash Scott Walker, to kick his ass. It may be wrong to kick a man when he's down, but we're kicking him when he's down, and we're going to continue to kick him when he's down. I really don't like this guy, can you tell? You shouldn't like him either, because his brand of extremism is being carried by governor after governor after governor across this country, and we've got to stop him dead in the tracks. that third leg that I want to talk to you about, and then I'm going to close it out. I'm having fun with you this afternoon. You all right? You guys all right? You know, one of the things that we must do, because labor can't do it alone. Bill understands this. He's preached this for his entire life. We can not only work within the labor movement, but we've got to work outside the labor movement. We've got to cultivate and rebuild our relationships with our coalition partners, with our community partners. We've got to ask them for support. But just as we ask them for support, when they ask us for support, we must be there for them. This is not a transactional relationship. It's a transformational relationship. We aren't trying just to rebuild a labor movement. We've got to rebuild a movement in this country of labor unions, of students, of retirees, of the faith-based community, of working families. And you're doing it right here in Washington State. You work with broad coalitions to fight for working families, to protect the most vulnerable in this state. You're fighting against the Freedom Foundation and all their lies in coalition with other organizations and other unions across the state. And I think I read something a couple of days ago where at the University of Washington in Seattle, because of that coalition, your activism and the activism of the students and other labor unions, you had to fight for 15. And now those workers are going to get $15 an hour for minimum wage. That's what this movement, rebuilding this movement, is all about. Sisters and brothers, here's the bottom line. We're one of the last organized forces with the power to stand up for working families. We've got to bring in other organizations and folks to stand up with us. And we must be strong enough for the job. I know it's a tremendous responsibility. It's a heavy load. But you know what? Throughout our history, throughout the proud history of AFSCME, we've shouldered that weight. When you look at our history, you go back to the beginning, and you look at a group of state workers in Wisconsin in 1932 who came together and decided that they wanted to have a seat at the table. They wanted to get rid of that patronage system. They wanted to have the ability to talk about wages and working conditions and benefits. And they formed AFSCME, this great union. In 1932, sisters and brothers, those sisters and brothers were AFSCME strong. In 1968, city of Memphis, 1,300 sanitation workers, African Americans, stood up and said they were sick and tired of being sick and tired. Brother Lucy was standing right with them. They stood up and they went on strike for dignity and respect. They did that, and they won that strike because they were AFSCME strong. Right here in the state of Washington. This union took on unequal pay for women, didn't we? You remember that? Right. We took it on when no others thought that it would be possible. And we followed it through the courts. And we were able to settle getting more money for our women, our sister workers in the state of Washington. We did that because we were AFSCME strong. Sisters and brothers, they were AFSCME strong then. We must be AFSCME strong now. Must be. You know, we draw our strength from determination. We draw our strength because we have power. From a legacy of activists who stood up when they were told to sit down, who kept going when they were told to step aside, who got loud when they were told to be quiet, who fought back when they were told to give up. Council 28, a proud union, a union of warriors, join with your sisters and brothers across this country to be as powerful as we possibly can be. Because all of us, collectively, we must do what those before us did. We must stand up. We must fight back. We must keep going. We must get loud. We must make our voices heard. The challenges are too great, but AFSCME is up for these challenges because we are the Mean Green Machine. Council 28 is the Mean Green Machine. And when AFSCME fights, AFSCME wins. When AFSCME fights, AFSCME wins. When AFSCME fights, AFSCME wins. God bless you. Let's get the job done.